And this is a part I was really happy to see them acknowledge. As it stands, subclassing is objectively stronger than pure classing by a large margin for several reasons. This is mostly caused by the vast differences in individual skill line designs. ESO was not built from launch with subclassing in mind, and the system highlighted issues with the current class skill design that were not previously a factor but are untenable going forward.
Okay, so this is the fun part, and this is where I'm really, really, really cut to the BS. Sure, this could be very true that subclassing is objectively stronger than pure classing by a large margin for several reasons, and they weren't prepared for this. Okay, fine, fix it then. Okay, and this is what I think the step they're gonna supposedly fix. But here's my thing, and here's what really, really, really irks me about this. And I'm gonna give a quick example for it to try to make understand. If my Nightblade, and I'm gonna mention more PVE example. If I made a solo build, right, for vet content, if my Nightblade is hitting 125k on a parse, then I take okay, then I take which is pretty good damage. Then I take it to a dungeon or a trial or a solo, right? And it performs very well. Now subclassic comes out, right? I want to be a Nightblade, but to be a Nightblade, I gotta be Nightblade subclass. Okay, I understand, and I'm not naive to understand it's gonna make me a little stronger. So maybe my Nightblade subclass is gonna make me instead of 125k, maybe 135k, and I'm okay with that. That's fine. They're gonna fix it. It's whatever. What I'm not okay with, and this is where the BS comes, is how they eliminate that one pure class. And what I mean by that is now because of subclassing, if I go to a pure nightmare, for example, and I try to parse that 125k on that pure same class with everything I had before, it is no longer 125. I'd be surprised if I can even hit 100k with it. That is bad. That is on purpose, and that's what I'm not happy with. You are forcing me to go to subclass, right? And no one wants to be forced to do anything in life. Don't get me wrong. Subclass came out. Of course, I'm gonna try it. Of course, I want to experiment new stuff. It's only for me not to get still on board of the game. But don't force someone to have to go into it. You know, give the option where, hey, if I want to still be my own Nightblade that hits 125, I can be it. But if I want to go to subclass, I'm gonna hit a little harder. But for you to be like, hey, you got to go to subclass, hit 135, or if you stay in your Nightblade, you're not gonna even hit over 100k. And that is the part that bothers me, and that is the part that is not right. That is just you get my point. Let me stop mumbling jumbo jumbo.
Absolutely. To support the overall health of the game and class system, we need to respond and adapt to how the game has changed based on how players are using the subclassing feature. With this in-game data and player feedback and available development resources in place, we have a clearer picture of the scope of changes that need to be made. These insights have led us to re-examine our class identities, how they're expressed and designed from individual abilities and passives, where those abilities are sourced, and how they all come together to create a cohesive class and identity. One overarching pattern you'll see as we move toward improving this experience is reorganizing class skill lines, adding in more benefits for sticking with the core skill lines of your class, and decentralizing role-specific power so that a single skill line won't have every tool you need to achieve your goals. I'm really glad to hear that this is the route they're going. For a while, it seemed like they were dead set on going with this is a tank line, this is a DPS line, this is a support line, and trying to take what we currently have and shape it into that. And now it looks like they're going the opposite direction. They're going to lean more into the themes of the lines and then give each line a little bit of something for every role. That way it's more spread evenly throughout all of the 21 class skill lines. If done correctly, this is going to greatly increase the diversity in the types of builds that we see. All right, moving on.
And I'm okay with that. That second paragraph, I am totally okay with that. I mean, to be honest, I don't. It does not bother me if every class was balanced, where every class hits the same damage. It would not bother me whatsoever. Um, the because the beauty of it is that if every class, I know this is not gonna happen, of course, but if every class hits the same damage, right, and they all have different special abilities, that would be beautiful. I mean, there wouldn't be too much of a problem, would it? But of course, it's not gonna happen exactly like that. But the second paragraph, I'm okay with.
Our aim isn't necessarily to nerf, though. While in some instances nerfs may be necessary, we'll be using values and specific effects to create more powerful or punchy abilities and passives, but with greater nuances that prevent subclassing from completely dominating the meta. What we aim to achieve is twofold. For those that prefer to play a pure class, you should have a strong and satisfying class identity and the power you need to achieve your goals. For those who wish to dive into subclassing, you should feel the freedom to forge your own identity or even forego identity for the sake of specialized power, but with less of a difference in power compared to pure class options. So this
Okay, I mean, sure, if you really work hard on that one class and could hit just as hard, sure, why not? But if you want to go subclass and make your life a little easier, sure, why not too? If you can have that type of balance, then I'm okay for that. I don't see a problem with that at all. Let's see if they really do what they say they do.
whole section here was so good. It shows that they not only know that there's a problem, but they understand what the problem is. They understand the feedback that's been given about how things are since subclassing. And this looks to me like right in line with what they need to do to make that better. Now, obviously, we won't know if it'll be better until we see some specifics. So hopefully we can get our hands on that pretty soon.
So my problem with subclasses came with tanking and how they spent years balancing and making tanking relay on all three trees of that class and how you lose important passive and skills by subclassing. Oh yeah. I I don't know how they could fix the subclassing thing. I feel that them saying they're gonna balance subclassing with regular class, I think it's too late. I don't think they'll be able to do that. I mean, they can balance it better, but I just feel that if I'm, for example, a Nightblade and Nightblade subclass, I feel the Nightblade subclass is always going to be a little stronger. But I do agree that, for example, and because I tried doing this too, even with my Necro tank, where I try putting one skill, but then when I put that one skill, it eliminated my other Necro skill that I really like using and really I felt a bit strong with. So I don't know. Maybe I don't think maybe it was a great idea having two subclass skills, but maybe just one. But I don't know. I mean, it's a whole mess at the moment. It's such a mess that it's even hard for me to explain.
Creation screen. I think this is a really cool graphic here. I love how they put this together. So let's go ahead and read.
All right, now I've seen quite a few videos of this chart. So after seeing this chart for a bit, some of this stuff makes me be like, ah. But let's go through this chart again because there are things that I'm like, what the hell?
Read through and see the sources of power and power fantasies for each of the classes. For Arcanists, seekers of truth and knowledge, Arcanists wield a form of runic magic so complex it requires a pact with Hermaeus Mora. Their abilities shape fate by building and spending power and unleashing potent spells. Arcanists unleash bursts of power in cycles, excelling at mid and long range tactical combat. Necromancers, masters of life and death, necromancers use corpses as resources by unearthing undead minions and tethering themselves to the battlefield. Necromancers gain power with each corpse they command, use enfeebling effects, and control the undead to do their bidding. Templars, holy warriors who channel the power of the sun and Adric entities. Templars use light as both a weapon and a shield and create sanctuaries. Using the blinding power of light, Templars can keep pressure at a distance but are truly a force when in melee range. Dragonite, dragon-powered.
The thing with a Templar, and this is what I'm a little worried about, is because Templar, I kind of feel like back in the days, Templar was really like the Arcanist, what the Arcanist is now, until they nerfed it. I mean, it's still good right now, because they brought it back. Not the same as it used to be. So I really don't hope that they nerf the Arcanist as much as it gets boring and you see everyone using the Arcanist. I don't really want them to nerf the Arcanist, just if maybe they could balance every other class. Um, I do feel the Arcanist Templar have similarities. Yeah, they're different, but it is a class that I do like.
Warriors who wield flame and fury with eruptive power, shielding their allies and themselves with earthen forces. Conquerors that dominate the front lines and excel at controlling the battlefield, often by building power over time. For the Wardens, protectors of nature and the cycles of Nirn, Wardens use the seasons to adapt and preserve balance. As with the changing of the seasons, the Warden's adaptability allows them to quickly react to what the situation demands. This flexibility
Warden DPS, I do like the Wardens. Unfortunately, because of meta and vice versa, and what the passes give to the Warden, having a Warden as a healer or tank, um, you really don't find a need for DPS wise, which is a shame because DPS wise, they always hit one of the hardest in parsing, and even some of their skills that are not really damaging skills are great for surviving and healing, and I can see them making a hell of a DPS if they only just fixed the class a little bit, properly. Like they said, they're gonna try to balance all the DPSs. I really do hope they do that, but you know, years of playing the game tells me otherwise.
gives them freedom to fight and flourish on the battlefield. For sorcerers, as master strategists, sorcerers call upon Daedric pacts and dark magic as the source of their power. Highly strategic and mobile, sorcerers focus on spell synergy and the opportunistic use of forbidden powers to achieve their goals, excelling at combining abilities for maximum effect. Nightblades use shadows and subterfuge. This rogue type steals power from foes to stay alive and support allies. Preferring indirect combat and evasion, Nightblades often rely on mobility and stealth to survive at a distance and strike at the perfect moment with a finishing blow. I really
Okay, so here's my problem with the Sork, and here's my problem with the Nightblade. The Sork, what does this mean? I mean, and this is where I feel like you just brought a bunch of blah. Highly strategic and mobile. Okay, so highly strategic and mobile. Sorcerers focus on spell synergy and the opportunistic use of forbidden powers. Okay, what does that mean? So, doesn't the Warden give forbidden and opportunistic power? Doesn't the Dragon Knight? Doesn't the Templar? Doesn't the Necromancer? Doesn't the Arcanist? I mean, what does that mean? It's just they just kind of wrote blah blah blah. Um, to achieve their goals, excelling at combining abilities for maximum effect. Okay, so does the Warden, Dragon Knight, Templar, Necromancer, Arcanist, and Nightblade. It's a bunch of rubbish there. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it could be explained better. The Nightblade, preferring indirect combat and evasion. Okay, Nightblades often rely on mobility and stealth to survive at a distance. Okay, all that is perfectly reliable, understandable in PvP, but for PvE, maybe in the overland, sure, if you're in the overland boss or going into public dungeon, you just want to go straight to the boss, I guess. But in what way does mobility and stealth to survive at a distance helps you in a group and game PvE, trial, or dungeon? Unless maybe you're going solo. Um, those abilities do not help you whatsoever because you don't use those abilities. You know, even if you get the Nightblade the hardest hitting, um, those some of those skills are just completely obsolete. Hard hitting, you can do that with any other class. So they really need to fix that. Um, Let me see. Cell Necromancer is my second favorite class, but yeah, it's definitely the worst at all roles and abilities. They just don't work right. Yeah, to be honest, and I like the Necros. I mean, Nightblade has always been my favorite class because it's from day one. Sadly, I had to leave it, when they did changes over the years and meta and vice versa. But I always did like the Necro. Um, I did find it cool and fun for a while. I was using it as a Necro tank. I even main tank a couple trials and like Vast +2 speed run and vice versa. And I thought it was really fun. A lot of people had trouble with it. I actually enjoyed it because I know how to manipulate and play with the corpse. Unfortunately, I don't use my Necromancer anymore because I have a subclass Warden mixed with Nightblade, Siphoning, and what was the other one? I forgot what I did. I think it was a warden with a night blade and dragon knight subclass. Once I did that, it just made my necromancer extinct where I barely don't ever use it anymore because I just don't have a need for it anymore, and that's thanks to subclassing. So yeah, so sad, so sad. Rest in peace, Necro. Hopefully they can fix it with this balance supposedly that they're going to do.
I like this graphic. Whoever put this together did an awesome job, and it's a nice breakdown of each of the classes.
I used to do all my tanking on Necro, but definitely weaker than almost all classes. Indeed. I mean, to be fair, if I wanted to, Necro's fun. Where if I wanted, like, let's say, I don't know, go to Maelstrom Arena and just throw a bunch of corpse all over the place, I could definitely clear it, and it could be fun clearing it. But it just becomes kind of blah because when you're used to, you know, parsing or hitting a very hard number or just doing extreme hard damage, um, you start to feel the using all those corpses lackluster. Don't get me wrong. If I maybe put in my wife or someone new to the game, and or PvPer and put her on a necro full of corpse for damage, they're probably gonna love it, and they're probably gonna be like, "Wow, this hits hard." Um, with a lot of AOE damage, but for us, we're so used to DPSing high end that it kind of it just doesn't feel right. It feels clunky and slow. But yeah, I do enjoyed tanking with the necro. I was kind of healing with the necro. I haven't really healed much with the necro. I just really haven't found a need for it. Um, and the abilities and stuff, there's just other classes that can do so much more. But I don't know. Have you tried necro healing? I have meta when they first came out. Yeah, for a time it was meta healing. It wasn't very long, but there was a short time that I did. Um, Let me see. Then off tanking Necro became meta, and now they are pretty much done for. Yeah, I remember when I did when I did Vass +2. You know, at the time they were looking for tanks because there was a time where they were just really short for tanks. So I told them, well, I have a Nightblade tank and I have a Necro tank. I mean, now I have more tanks, but at the time, I was so. Of course, if no one wants in high end wants you to use Nightblade tank, so that kind of got obsolete. Most groups would never want to accept one, and so, but I did have a off tank, and which was a Necro, and I just made it into a main tank, and I main tank Vast +2 speed run with it, uh, which is a cool opportunity because it's kind of those are small opportunities you get nowadays. It's hard to get into trials like that nowadays.
For each of the classes. Subclassing hit PTS in April, and now we're sitting here in December, and none of the underperforming lines for subclassing have been addressed. So this is just way too long we've had to sit with balance being broken. So my hope is that alongside of these big reworks, we can get some other stuff put into place, even if it's only temporary, so that we're not stuck waiting however long it's going to take them to do all of these classes before balance is in a decent spot. All right.
So by the way, guys, ladies and gentlemen, the next subscriber who follows, yay! Tonka, congratulations. You will be getting our next yellow pair of Noonie TV socks. Woo! Thanks for the follow.
Experience, including unique damage over time parameters like short.
So for those who don't know the quality and content of these socks, first of all, they're yellow, but at nighttime they glow green, right? And you could get them for only a small limited fee of $55.99. But because you follow, they are totally free for you.